So good. All right, let's stay on the Bulls because the late Jerry Krause has been featured extensively, gentlemen, in these Last Dance docuseries episodes. He was, of course, the GM of the Bulls from 1985 to 2003, often had a tumultuous relationship with his players, but also responsible for the relatively unconventional hiring of Phil Jackson, discovering Scottie Pippen at that small college in Central Arkansas and then maneuvering to trade for him, and all the steps along the way that both built and then dismantled the Bulls dynasty. Now, Krause died in 2017, but he was working on a memoir at the time, and his family has given it to NBC Sports Chicago. Here is a portion of it about working with Michael Jordan. Quote, "Personally, despite our problems off the court, he was great to deal with on the court, where it counts. He wanted to win as much as I did, and we were both driven by winning again and again, looking for any edge to keep it going. Were we good for one another? I think we turned out to be a great match," Krause wrote. "We were both stubborn, strong-willed competitors, proud of our ability and wanting to carve out our own niche in the game's hierarchy." So, Zach, we see MJ disparaging Jerry Krause pretty much every chance he gets in this documentary. It seems to fuel him at times. Is there an argument that Krause was the foil Michael needed to reach GOAT status as a player?
I think there are two separate things. First, you're talking specifically about the last season, the Last Dance season, and I think Krause as the sort of thing that brought the players together when they were aging and old and there was so much tension and Scottie was hurt. I think maybe for that particular season, they needed something to galvanize them, and that became their tensions with Jerry Krause. But I think foil is the wrong word for the rest of Michael's career, because although they didn't get along and all that, like, Jerry Krause did play a role in building the team and giving Michael the sort of roster around him that could win championships. Getting Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant in the same draft, trading for Scottie. I mean, that's an all-time day of work for a GM that completely changed the team around Michael, completely changed their trajectory. So I think foil for their career that would propel him to greatness, I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think Michael would have been great regardless of who the GM was, and I think their working relationship, at least the product on the court, was a positive for Michael.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Michael was going to be great either way. I think what Jerry Krause was able to do is just put the players in place. You know, no GM is going to make a player great. That's all up to the player, what's in them, what's driving them. You know, Michael was great coming out of high school, in college, and on to the pros. What he was able to do was build a team around him to take his greatness to new levels. But as far as, you know, making Michael the GOAT, that's all him, man. You know, I think it has a lot to do with the coaches, the players you're surrounded around to make you great, to win a championship. But them being stubborn together didn't really push Michael. He was already driven.
That relationship is always so interesting between a star player and a GM. And I know how close you were, Paul, with Danny Ainge. Were there tough conversations along the way about how Danny wanted to construct the team, especially early on before Ray and Kevin got there?
Me and Danny really had a good relationship. I mean, you know, our conversations really was about, you know, what I can do to be a better leader. You know, sometimes off the court habits, you know, it was times where I'll probably go out too much and we'd talk about it. But on the most part, it was a great working relationship, because I remember a lot of times after practice, I would go up to his office just voluntarily and just, you know, talk about players, what we could do to make the team great, make it better. And eventually he brought in Kevin and Ray, you know, but we had some tough conversations. You know, it was even a point where we talked about even moving on before we got those two guys. But, you know, as far as working relationship, me and him had a great talking relationship all the time. You know, I didn't hesitate to ever go to his office.
So interesting. Danny Ainge has kind of had it both ways. He's got the Trader Danny reputation where guys know that he would trade you for his mother, or trade his mother for another player, but also this really warm relationship that Paul talks about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard balance to strike, and I was actually curious to see if Paul was going to bring up when Paul's name got into trade rumors before. How did Danny handle that? How forthright was he? How early did Paul know? Did they talk about things like that? Because it's very hard to do, and I actually think the Isaiah Thomas trade for Kyrie Irving, I think that's the reputation. I don't know if it actually hurt the Celtics, but that was really the first time you started to get a backlash to, you know, Isaiah Thomas played through injury, he played through tragedy, and then they turned around and trade him. That was the first time where there was some sort of, like, backlash to the Trader Danny moniker, I think.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.